Do you think it's called the Big Arch because the McDonald's CEO be fucking like that? Think about it. Why would they come out with a name like that? There's no mention of a burger in it. They just call it the Big Arch. They're like, you get it. You get the point. And then they put him on camera and they make him eat it in front of us, salivating over it. It's crazy. There were definitely undertones there, right? Do you think he gets to the bedroom and he's like, oh, I'm going to hit you with a shamrock shake? It's like, okay, easy with that, right? Oh, a Big Arch. I'm familiar with that in my mouth. All right, buddy. Sweet and sour sauce. That's my favorite. See if you like it too. All right. Hey, guess what? It's McRibbed for your pleasure. Okay. Yeah, you want some of those freshly baked cookies? It's a pack of 2 for $1. Well, not in this economy, but in the past, eating a cookie was quite inexpensive, I would say. But there are so many things, right, that you got to wonder, what is going on with that ad, right? What were they thinking going into that? Let's sit them down. Let's make them eat this shit out. And they did it. And it was a total misfire, right? It was a complete disaster. It was a mistake until it wasn't. It's weird. I don't think anyone's ever said this in the world history, but McDonald's actually aged well, which I guess makes sense. Those burgers don't really have a half-life, do they? You could put one of those into a bunker and then in like 70 years be like, oh yeah, they put too much mustard on this. It is, those people that do conspiracy theories and like the world's going to end because of like solar flares and whatnot. They have their power generators, their wind-up flashlights, and their McRibs. That's what they're kind of putting down there. And it makes sense. But yeah, it's weird. It started, everyone hated it. They were like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He's referring to the burger as a product? That's wild. What SKU of this burger do I want to eat today? It was weird at first, but then it was charming because people started getting on it and treating it like a trend. It got so much traction that it accomplished exactly what it set out to do, which is like basically raise awareness for the burger. It makes you wonder, do they have all this thought of beforehand? No, I don't think so. But you couldn't have thought about that beforehand. All these other burger places, right? Didn't Wendy's do it? Burger King did it. They had all their CEOs be like, eat a burger. We're going to make you seem charming. And then they did, and we were all like, ew. We like got the ick. We're like, ew, you're trying too hard. And then we looked at this big old nerd, right? Chris over at McDonald's. And we were like, actually, you were first. There's something charming about that. You just kind of went in. I think this is really a testament. It's a lesson in life. If you think some shit's going to be cringe or it's like, oh, I don't want to, no one's ever done this before, so there's probably no data or information about whether or not I should do that, do it. You'll be the next McDonald's CEO and you'll be on camera chowing down on a Big Arch. Congratulations. But there is some truth to that statement. Like, you got to be first because that's where all the charm comes from. Everyone else is a just terrible facsimile, a poor imitation of the original. And the original was, Chris chowing down on a Big Arch. And this is interesting in that he got to see this through, right? It's been about a week and this thing is aged properly. Something that's a little fresh off the presses, however, is Timothée Chalamet's comment to Matthew McConaughey and a live audience about the ballet and opera. He said they're a dying art form, No one goes and sees them anymore. And everyone's hot on his McNugget about it. Because they're like, fuck you, Timothée Chalamet. You think those are dying art forms? Well, fuck your movies. I saw them. I thought Marty Supreme was kind of cool. But no, fuck you, man. I haven't seen Marty Supreme. I was acting like someone else. But people are really up in arms. They do not like that Timothée Chalamet said this. And where does he get off saying this? Well, he's actually been getting off saying this for the past 7 years. I saw a clip from back in 2019 where he said this same exact shit. He's apparently been saying this for most of his life. And apparently his mom and sister, I think, grew up in ballet and opera, maybe just ballet. So this is a world he's very familiar with. And I think that's why he feels comfortable speaking on it, because it is maybe not a dying art form, but it is less than what it used to be. I don't know why that is. There could be so many factors that contribute to that, but he's probably the right one to speak on it, but he probably shouldn't have, because it got clipped. You see, I grew up watching my sister play basketball, so I went out to all the middle school basketball games, all the high school basketball games, and that's why I feel very confident saying that women's basketball fucking sucks. No, it doesn't. It doesn't at the highest levels. Like the WNBA, love watching those games. College women's basketball, very enjoyable. Anything below women's college basketball is the most jarring experience of my life. I was born with an estimated lifespan of 100 years, let's say, going to all of my sister's basketball games growing up reduced my lifespan more than a hot dog a day could ever. I hated that shit. In the beginning, I was like, oh, it's fun. We get to see all the, the families and watch this basketball. That shit sucks ass. And so I feel very confident being like, yeah, women's basketball below college sucks. And so it's like, how do you get excited about it if you have to wait for someone to be in college to actually make it watchable, right? Because you see online, there's all these like high school, middle school, elementary school boys, and you're like, oh, it's like looks fun. I don't know what it is about women's basketball. That shit sucks at lower levels. And I feel very confident in saying that because I grew up with it. I have a friend that plays women's basketball. So I can speak on the topic, right? I'm adjacent to the culture, so I have a voice in it, right? No. But people are really mad at Timothée Chalamet. And I think they should, right? Is that where the wind blows right now? People are saying, fuck him? Well, then, yeah, fuck him. I don't think what he says is right. By the time this is out, people will be on his side. Okay, then I agree with what he said. I think it was he was actually ahead of his time. I think he was right. But it is interesting. I think we might see his statement age a little more gracefully, probably not as gracefully as the McDonald's CEO, but I think if we take a page out of the McDonald's CEO book, we need other people to speak out against ballet and opera that are less likable than Timothée Chalamet. And then we'll be like, actually, you know what? Take the heat off Timmy. Fuck this person. Why do they have an opinion on the ballet and opera? And we'll be like, yeah, that's true. They're going to say something more heinous, and then we're going to let Timothée Chalamet's statement. We're going to be like, actually, that was fine. I think it just aged really bad, I think. Or it's like aging. It has a really tumultuous adolescence, his statement, and I think we're going to see it, get into its teens over this next week, and then maybe it'll like mature by the end of the week, and then we'll forget about it next week. But then every time he does something weird, we're going to pull up this clip and be like, see, I knew he fucking sucked. Remember what he said about the opera and the ballet? It's like, do you go to the opera or ballet? Well, I think we should uphold art. I'm like, all right, name 5 operas. Is that a thing you can do? Name 5 ballets, huh? Ballet shoes, what are they called? Fuck, I just gave you the answer. That's not what they're called, right? Ballet shoes. They're called flats? I don't know. But it is interesting. It feels like it's kind of the same thing where it's like it's the loose comparison. But it feels like they're the first to do a thing. And at first we're like, this fucking sucks. But it's weird because we're going to see it age. And then we'll kind of see where it settles. Right now it's like when you're baking a cake and it's not rising. And you're like, see, I fucked it up. I shouldn't have put 7 eggs in the cake. And it's like, no, don't be hard on yourself. It just sorry, did you say you put 7 eggs in a cake? Yeah, I heard that makes it more flavorful. So I thought the more the better. I'm like, well, that's okay. That's a different issue. We'll get to that. But no, just give it some time. Then we'll see how it actually ends up. And then if, it collapses it on itself, then that's the popular opinion. But I'm curious to see, where does Timothée Chalamet javelin throw of an opinion land? Where's it going to sit? But it's funny because they're both being genuine. I think that's what made the McDonald's CEO so charming or whatever, is that you could tell this dude's actually a freak. This is actually who he is. And this is how Timothée Chalamet actually feels about this art form, ballet and opera. It's just that it probably wasn't packaged the greatest of ways when we look at that clip, and it didn't make it any better being like, oh, I just lost fucking 14 cents or whatever. That was bad. Probably shouldn't have said that. It kind of doubled down. It's a symptom of a greater issue, but it feels like it's one of those that you can just kind of, swipe to the side. It's kind of like when you have a pain in your chest in the middle of the night and you're like, that's a heart attack. Well, no, it's not a heart attack. It's just maybe lay off the cookies late at night, right? That's just heartburn. Don't be eating so much sugar in the wee hours of the night. So, yes, it's problematic what he said, but I don't think he's having a heart attack. I think he just made a little bit of a mistake. And if you disagree with me, I changed my opinion. Whatever you want me to say, I have said that. Thank you. But it's funny to see that, yes, they were both genuine. That's why I say they're 2 sides of the same coin, in that they were both being authentically themselves, but one turned out way different than the other. One, we're like, yeah, this is our guy right here. This little nerd with his with his fries turned outward. We're like, yeah, that's some freak shit. I can tell he is wild in the bed. I bet there's fan art of the McDonald's CEO floating around there right now. And I'm sure there's fan art of Timothée Chalamet that was already in circulation that people have taken that down because they're like, that's not my king. Fuck him. All right. He said that shit about, what was it? Ballet and opera. Okay. Yep. I've never seen one of those. The thing is, I don't think I agree with the statement, but I have to admit, where the fuck do you watch that stuff? Like, unless you, like, you're in a big city, where do you watch ballet or opera? Unless you go to, like, like a school's rendition. And then if you show up to that, people are like, oh, which one's yours? And then, you're like, I don't know any of the kids up there. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. Hey, just hold tight. I think there's some snacks in the in the front of the building. How about I get something for both of us? And they come back with the police and they're like, that's him, officer. He doesn't have a kid here, yet he's here. I'm like, I'm sorry. I fell asleep during my first showing of Phantom of the Opera. I just wanted to, like, get some closure. I'm sorry. I know. Speaking of getting closure, though, I have to make a guilty admission and say that, I broke no contact. People, when they have an ex and they're like, I'm not going to contact them. I think it's healthier if we just, move on with our two lives. Well, I have a toxic ex and I broke no contact. I engaged with them actually last night for the first time. And you wouldn't have thought that I would go back to them because they really got under my skin, but I had to. For medical reasons. That's right. This toxic ex I'm talking about is an MRI. I had to get another one. And like I said, it really got under my skin because it shows my muscles and tendons. So it's actually doing its job. You got to applaud it, don't you? But no, I got an MRI yesterday. It's going to be a yearly thing now. Every March. First time I got an MRI was last March. Now I got one this March. Where will you be next March? I know where I'll be. So don't make any plans. Okay, I'm probably going to be busy that weekend. But I got an MRI last night because now we've kind of isolated, okay, the issue seems to be in my ankle. This stupid ass bullshit that I've been dealing with for 3 years, still dealing with it. So now I went to the doctor last week, which by the way went to the doctor at 10:30 a.m., which means after the appointment, I got Dairy Queen. That's right, we're so fucking back. Oh my God, here's a picture. That's proof. I was at Dairy Queen and then boom, there's my blizzard. All's well that ends well, except my ankle. That shit's still fucked. So now my doctor, literally the first thing he did when he walked into the room, he was like, honestly, I'm pretty much run out of ideas. I don't know what to do. I was like, oh, okay, that's a good thing to hear. First off. So let me just say that. Nothing assures me more than that shit you just said to me. But he was like, yeah, I don't know. I'll test your knee. I'm going to ask you if you have back pain, which you historically haven't, right? I was like, that's true. And he was like, but you're always bending over backwards and being such a great guy, so I'm surprised you don't have back pain. I said, hey, a real one recognizes real, right, Doc? Hey, what are you doing after this? You want to get a bite? He's like, we're not that close. I said, okay, that's cool. But he said, we don't know what to do. All right? There's just a lot of guesswork we have to do, but I guess the next steps are like, we'll get an MRI of your foot and then maybe see a podiatrist. Okay? It seems related to your foot. So yeah, I went and got a fucking MRI. And it was, I don't know what is wrong with these people. They have weekend MRIs. It's actually quite nice. It doesn't interfere with work. But they don't do it at normal times. My doctor was like, hey, we can get you in an MRI tomorrow. I had an appointment, Friday. So he was like, tomorrow, Saturday, we can get you in at 9, 9:30 or 10. I said, oh, it's going to be a bit of an early morning for Saturday. But I said, you know what, let's do 10. He said, all right, 10 p.m. it is. I said, excuse you? Sorry? Then what about 9 or 9:30? Are those in the morning? He said, oh, sorry. No, that's all p.m. 9, 9:30, and 10 p.m. It's at night. I said, what the fuck is going on over there? And then he said, all right, well, do you want to do it? I said, yeah, I guess we have to. Fine, I'll just take the Saturday night and get out there. And he said, oh, he entered it into his computer. He turned the computer around to me. He said, there's a $1,200 copay. I said, Doc, what are we doing? He said, I don't know what that's about. So you probably don't want to do it, right? I said, what are my options now? He said, well, you can do an MRI somewhere else. It doesn't have to be through this hospital. There's plenty of places offer them elsewhere. I'll just give you the details and you have to ask them for exactly this. I said, okay, that's fine. But he said, before that, contact member services. Maybe ask them, why is this copay $1,200? I said, I'll do it. So I talked to member services later that day for a goddamn hour, okay? You know what's insane in my day-to-day life? The people at work, the people I talk to, when I got to talk to a hospital or, the bank or something, anytime I talk to those people, the thing that's going in the back of my head is, this is the most I've talked to someone like this year. I've hung out, you want to know, a fucking insane thing, and it's my fault. I could fix it, but it's kind of self-induced. I've hung out with two people this year. I went to a Kings game with a friend in January. I just realized. And then I did a FaceTime call with someone in February. That's the only two times I've hung out with someone outside of my family or work. So if I am going crazy, it's because of my ankle. It's because of lack of any sort of like emotional connection with people I like. And it's self induced. There's been friends that are like, you want to hang out? But I've just been busy. But I need to not be busy. I've also been just frustrated. If you have, I don't even know what the fuck to call this. If you have a chronic like illness or ailment, it is so hard to like, whatever the fuck. I don't, who gives a shit? It's just, it hurts so much. My foot hurts so much when I have to drive. And so, like, when someone's like, you want to hang out? The thing in my head is like, no, I don't want to fucking drive somewhere to be fucking tired and annoyed, but I know it'll be better at the end, once I've hung out with them and I'll be like, readjusted emotionally. But, anyways, I was on the phone for an hour. I talked to 3 different member services people. Then I talked to the fucking claims and billing office. Then I talked to radiology. Then I talked to radiology after hours because radiology was fucking closed. So that person transferred me somewhere else. Anyways, they confirmed my insurance covers an MRI. It should be free. But for some reason, this $1,200 was still lurking. You see, member services, they said, you're good. Talked to radiology. They said, no, it's $1,200. I said, I'm going to show up no matter what. How about that? Because they say, oh, if you want to hold off, maybe wait till Monday to talk to, claims and stuff because their office is closed right now. Maybe you can wait till Monday and get on the phone with them. I said, if I reschedule my MRI, when would it be? And they said about 3 weeks out. I said, fuck that. We're doing it this Sunday. We'll run it, folks. So yeah, I got an MRI. Saturday one got filled up by the time I was done with member services. So I did it last night, Sunday. It's not even been 24 hours since I was in that tube. Do I have that post-MRI glow? People have been telling me that. I've been glowing all day. I said, thank you so much. They said, no, you seem oily. Have you showered? I said, oh, it's a different thing. It's much worse. But yeah, this experience was much better. For this past year, right? I went to get an MRI last March. Now I get one this March. It's been a nice fiscal year. This experience, I've been, telling people, it sucks. MRIs fucking suck. It's annoying. And then I went this time. It's quite enjoyable, I have to say. I actually caught some Z's in that machine. Yeah, I took a little bit of a snooze. It was nice. Because I got in there, and first of all, I was too familiar with the place. I went in, they were like, you can use changing room A. I said, oh, thank you so much. I go in there. I say, oh, there's no bag. There should be a bag in here. I said, excuse me, miss. Are there supposed to be bags in there? She said, oh, are they out of bags? I said, I think so. She was like, oh, yeah, let me get you some. And I was like, I shouldn't know that there should be bags in the changing room. I should have just walked out of the changing room with all my clothes because you got to go down to your underwear and socks and put this gown on. And then you have all your clothes in a bag. But I knew that there was supposed to be a bag, so I requested it. And then there was a locker. They were like, you want to enter the code? I was like, I got it. Then I get into there, and then I'm like, oh, this is the place. Familiar territory. Oh, my old stomping grounds, huh? But then they put me in, on the thing. And then they were like, anything you need? I said, oh, you got the earplugs? They were like, oh, yeah, we'll get you the earplugs. And they're like, would you care for a blanket? I said, a blanket? Huh. I must be on the rewards program. Maybe I saved up enough points on my first visit. But you can't use the points on the first visit. You got to wait till your second one. That's how they really get you. So I was like, oh, maybe I earned enough points on my first visit. They offered me a blanket. I said, thank you so much. I would love a blanket. And then I'm there, about to go into the tube. And they say, would you also like earmuffs? I said, oh my goodness, like I'm offered a glass of water. I say, oh, if you have it, I would love that. And they're like, yeah, we got some earmuffs. And they give them to me. And I put them on. And in my dumbass brain, you can't have any metal, when MRIs are going off because then it'll just suck you straight into the tube. It's very powerful. It's like a giant magnet. So in my head, when I put the earmuffs on, I was like, oh my goodness, should I let them know? Hey, do these earmuffs have metal in them? Because you're not supposed to have metal. I was like, you dumbass. They offered you the earmuffs. They know they don't have metal in them. I was like, yeah, they're fully made of plastic. I was like, oh. So I didn't say anything. But if I was given like another minute or two, I would have been like, hey, these are like safe for that. They're like what would they have said? They would have been like, no, we gave you ones that would be ripped off your skull. Yes, they're safe, dumbass. You know what? We're going to keep you in there for 30 minutes. We said 15. Keep you in there for longer. It seems like there's a lot wrong with you. We're going to try to figure it out because we don't want to see you again. But, yeah. Broke no contact. Saw my toxic ex again. And we'll see what the results are. Could be just absolutely nothing. Isn't that insane? And you know what sucks about this appointment being on a Sunday night is that it ruined my fucking weekend. You have this, I have this, where it's like if something is scheduled, I love to do it first thing in the morning so I can get it out of the way. Because if something is scheduled later in the day, I'm just spending the whole day like thinking about it and I can't really like do stuff. And so this shit was planned in the end of a Sunday, end of a weekend. So I spent all of Saturday and Sunday just being like, all right, I'm looking, not looking forward to it, but it's like that's what I'm looking to, right? I gotta like do that in the future. So I had a very unproductive, shitty fucking weekend. On Saturday, I knew because I scheduled it on Friday for Sunday. And so I was like, this is going to be an unproductive weekend. So Saturday, I was like, let me just do everything. So I did all my dishes, all my laundry, all my cleaning. And I was like, let me just get all this shit out of the way so that at least I can have a productive weekend. Because everything else creatively, like I would have recorded this podcast, but I'm like, no, I don't have it in me. I'm just going to be thinking about this stupid fucking tube I have to be in 72 hours. So yeah. And it sucks. It was also a shorter weekend, right? We might be like, oh, well, that was, less time you have to wait, Gauruv. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But they also cut International Women's Day by 1 hour. And that just grinded my gears in a different way. Okay. Let's So yeah, that's how my weekend was. Huh? Oh, and what? I got rewarded with a Monday? Woe is me. I saw this, I went to Dairy Queen. So speaking of ice cream, I didn't need to make a segue. I just, I need an excuse to talk about ice cream. When have I referenced ice cream recently? Oh, Dairy Queen. I went to Dairy Queen. But speaking of ice cream, I got an ad for Ben and Jerry's. You know Ben and Jerry's, they're famously in the little tub, in the little cup. Well, now they're putting them on sticks. They have Ben and Jerry's ice cream bars. And I got this ad. It was just one of those quick ones on YouTube where you're like, I'm not even sure if that happened or not. And then it gets you into a 15-second unskippable one. You're like, okay. Now I really don't know if that first one happened because now I'm in a haze. I'm in a haze of advertising. But this ad, all it said was, new Ben & Jerry's ice cream bars. Put a stick in it. And I don't have the greatest hearing. You know that, right? I wear hearing aids. So when it said, put a stick in it, maybe I was a little fatigued from the day, I fully heard, put your dick in it. And there was a small part of me, for a second, I believed it. I was like, yeah, they would say that. Marketing is getting really edgy now. They would probably urge you to put your dick in it. Well, what does it look like? Let's bring up the source material. Huh? What does it look like? Yeah? Huh. I don't know what it looks like. I'll put a picture here just for reference. And then that might make this either funny or concerning. That's what it looks like, huh? Yeah, I think I could muster up the courage. Yeah. But no. Isn't that fucked up? It's a real sign of our times, right? That I would hear Ben and or Jerry, I don't know, maybe they were both in the meeting, put out an ad that says, put your dick in it. And I was like, yeah, they would do that, right? I feel like everything is a circle, right? Timothée Chalamet slandered ballet and opera all those years ago, and now he's doing it again. And just like, those Carl's Jr. ads where they had like the women in the bikinis with like barbecue sauce dripping onto them, I feel like this Ben & Jerry's ad maybe would have just fallen into that category. I'm like, yeah, no, this, of course we're getting back to this. This feels like the kind of advertising I would see in the big 2026. And so, yeah, for a solid second, you could count it. It was a heavy, palpable second. I was like, yeah, they want to have us make our own, chocolate covered bananas at home. I was like, and that makes sense. Ben and or Jerry would want that. Do you know what I was about to say? If you guess in the comments, I'll pay you $1,000. How about that? I saved $1,200 from the MRI. So also when I was when I was changing, right, when I was stripping down to put my gown on in the MRI room, I got a knock on the door, and I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And it was the lady that was like, "Oh, you're in room A." She was like, "Hey, so MRI today, right?" I was like, "Mm-hmm." She was like, "Are you?" Said it real hush hush, and she had a mask on. And by this time, I had already taken my hearing aids out because I didn't want my ears ripped from my body. They're quite big. I think my whole body would go with them. So I was really trying to avoid that. I already took my hearing aids out. They were in the bag. So I couldn't hear her. I asked her to repeat herself like 3 different times. And she eventually, when I, developed the power of hearing, realized that she was saying, "Do you know that there's a $1,200 copay?" I said, "Oh, yes, I talked to member services. Should be covered, should be good." She was like, "Okay, so you're not paying $1,200 out of pocket, right?" I said, "Huh. Hey, I already took my pants off. What pockets?" She said, "No, that's so true. That's a good one." I didn't say that. I don't want you to get the impression that I said that, because that what the fuck kind of, that's a shitty, how uncomfortable. I wouldn't have said that. So yeah, I'm flush with cash now because I thought I was going to have to pay, but then I didn't. So now it's like I made a profit. That's girl math, right? I'll engage in a BOGO under the pretense that I will be saving money. Am I now $17 short because I just bought socks, like the socks you get at Sky Zone with the grippy bottoms? Yes, of course, but I saved $3 because these socks would have cost me $20, but because of the BOGO, I got them for 17. So you see how I'm now $3 richer? I needed socks, right? Debt, taxes, socks. These are all things that are happening in life. You'll eventually need socks, right? The same way you will all eventually need a colonoscopy. These are things that are inevitable in life. So why not just front the money now, buy the fuzzy socks, save the $3. Now I'm $3 up, right? It's kind of like on Amazon where it's like, hey, you want to ship this like next week? We'll give you like $1 of credit. But really, you can tell friends that you're environmentally sound and conscious, even though you're ordering off of Amazon. You know why we called it Amazon, right? Because we're going to destroy the rainforest. And then no one can be like, you destroyed the Amazon. No, we created another one. And if you want something tomorrow, or even maybe later today, we can have it for you, right? Then we can stop thinking about all the lush greenery that is charred and gone. I was driving on a freeway. You ever do this? Exhilarating. But sometimes when you're on a freeway, there's a bridge, like a footpath above the freeway, and I saw this couple on there. I would hope they're a couple, because all of a sudden they're walking, and the guy turns around and he kisses the girl, and I thought, how dare they? We're about to have a world war, and you guys are juxtaposing that with love and affection, but really it's a testament to the human condition, huh? Amidst it all, we can still find love, huh? A real silver lining. No, this is nice. This is actually, you know what? Faith in humanity restored. Can we get a like on the video for that? Can we start a hype train? But no, I wanted to honk at them. Not even like a cute honk where it's like, doot, doot, I'm rooting for you guys. It was more like I wanted to, put my hand on that shit and then wrap it with duct tape and not let go, because I was like, fuck you guys. I'm just kidding. I'm a big fan of love. I actually love it. Don't believe me? I love it. Would a real lover boy not say that? Ew, that's gross. I don't. The phrase lover boy chills down my spine. Absolute goosebumps. Chicken skin, they call it? Because that's awful. Grown men should not be saying lover boy. That's insane. But you know what people should be saying? What music they're listening to, because I would love to know, get a real pulse on society. But it's a real quid pro quo situation. You give me some, I give you some. So here's some songs I've been listening to this week. ATM by Don Toliver. Daydreamin' by Ariana Grande. What? Ariana Grande dropped new music? No, this song is from 2013. I just don't know how I never heard it. And then I heard it. I was like, yeah, that's good. And then, Bruno Mars, everyone's going crazy over his new album called The Romantic. And people have really been honing in on that song, Risk It All, right? But I like Risk It All. But I like Dance With Me. it is like a hop, skip, and a jump away from being a Christmas song. I think it might find its way on my Christmas music album. You know how we talked about, right? Artists like Leve, stuff like that. They can make music and you're like, oh yeah, that's just a Christmas song, even though it's not. But they're just, their tone and their sound, it's very Christmassy. But no, this song, Dance With Me by Bruno Mars, it feels like the end of summer, you know? Where it's like the nights are still warm at like 11 p.m. and you can just hang out in the backyard with your friend and talk about bullshit. Ooh, that's what this song feels like. It also feels like neatly trimmed grass. Notice how I didn't say neatly cut grass, because cut, ooh, it's too jagged of a word. Trimmed. It felt like neatly trimmed grass. Like, how some grass looks like turf, but it's actually grass? That's how this song makes me feel. It makes me feel like I'm laying in turf-like grass. So, there's a delicacy there, okay? He didn't make this song with a lawnmower. He made it with one of those manual things where it looks like it's got like a cylinder with like spirals of blades on it. That's what this song feels like to me. Anyways, if this was a bad episode, the magnets in the MRI machine got to my brain, so you can blame that. I am not taking any accountability. But if this was good, you're welcome. Served this one up just for you. Came straight from the dome and no one else had any impact on it. No machine can keep this machine down. But make sure you leave a like on the video. I really do appreciate you. Sport's been great these past 3 weeks, so let's keep it up. I mean that. That sounded very insincere. But you have to understand, just like the McDonald's CEO, this may feel weird. This is what it is. This is how I am. So maybe we can get a comment. Maybe like W's in chat. I don't know. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And I will talk to you next week. Okay.